And Chair McNulty's arriving now.
Thank you.
Okay, looks like we're all here.
Thank you. Madam Chair, are you able to join us? I see you mute and unmute over there.
Oh yeah, I got kicked out. So as long as you guys, if I don't get kicked out again, I'm happy to stay on.
So sorry, didn't mean to.
It's okay. I didn't know you did it. I thought it was something with my connection.
I was just sitting here, but it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I'm just gonna pull up the agenda for today.
Great.
Oh, you already have it.
I have it if you want. I'm happy to toggle through it.
Cool.
And we do have a
Kate, will you
quorum.
be doing? Cool. Okay. Did you already do roll call then?
No.
Okay, but we're just gonna say we have a quorum because we can see everybody.
Yeah, we'll still do roll
We'll
call.
do roll call.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to confirm for you, you can call it to order.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry, I'm a little, we have NAH tonight, so it's a little crazy town here. All right, let's call this meeting to order. It's 1:33. Kate, would you please do roll call?
Yeah, thank you, Sandra.
Okay. Oh, so welcome everybody, and I will start with our chair, Michelle McNulty,
Here.
Vice Chair Nate Reisner,
Here.
Member Ann Dunno. Brendan Foley's not able to be here. Jess McNeely not able to be here. Myrna Bondoc.
Here.
Member Jeff Bauman.
Good afternoon.
Member Ed Stillings is not here today. Member Paul Mood.
Here.
Thank you. And I will call Metro Plan staff, Kate Morley,
Present.
David Wessel.
I'm here.
Amandia Gonzalez is not here today, and myself, Sandra Tavel. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. And Chair McNulty, I don't see any members of the public here today.
Perfect. Well, we will move on to the approval of minutes from our regular meeting on February 22nd, 2023. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
This is Nate Reisner. I make a motion to approve the minutes from February 22nd, 2023.
In a second.
I second. Myrna Bonda.
Okay. All right. Any objections? I guess all those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
I don't think I heard any objections. That was all ayes. Okay, those are approved. Okay, we're going to move on to consent agenda. It doesn't seem like we have anything. So we'll move right into general business. Mr. Wessel, would you like to give us an update on the Coordinated Public Transit and Human Services Transportation Plan?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This plan, shorthand called the Coordinated Plan for obvious reasons, is something that is updated annually, and it's a major update every 4 years. And this year we are considering a major update to this plan. This is the plan that speaks to service for the elderly and disabled and looks to connect public transportation and public transportation services with human service organizations such as the Guidance Center or NAU Senior Companion Programs, things of that nature. This year's plan, as I said, is a major update. It includes kind of our standard updates where we have looked at the pre-awards or grants that applicants intend to submit. Those that actually have been submitted as of this time. Those awards have not been made, but in order to be eligible, they have to be in the plan. And that's the major objective here. And the range of projects include capital purchases of vehicles, as well as some operating expenses for programs like Mountain Line's taxi voucher program and van pool program, as well as I mentioned, the NAU volunteer program and subsidizing some of those costs. In the staff report, you can see a range of new strategies that were included. We worked with the Coordinated Mobility Council, which is comprised of Metro Plan and Mountain Line staff, as well as human service provider representatives, and developed a number of new strategies that you see there in the staff report. Those have been added. So the CMC, the Coordinated Mobility Council, has approved or recommends this plan. The TAC will take action today, and we'll look for the executive board to take action at their meeting in early April. And then Mountain Line will continue with their process and adoption. So what we're looking for today is recommendation of approval by the TAC. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I am not seeing any hands up. Did such a good job. There's no questions. All right. Would staff recommend adoption? Would someone please make a motion to move a motion to approve the 2023 Metro Plan Mountain Line Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan update?
And I'm so moved.
Thank you.
And I'll
We will
second.
need- Cool. Thanks, Nate. Thanks,
Yep.
Ann. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, approved unanimously. Okay, Mr. Russell, an update on Strive Forward Regional Transportation Plan and getting our recommendation to adopt.
Yes, Madam Chair, and we'll keep this brief. At last month's meeting, the TAC, and then at the subsequent meeting, the board approved release for public comment. We did that, putting it out on our website and an announcement on the community forum. We've received about 20 comments, and they're very much in keeping with what we've heard throughout the public outreach for the plan. Those comments have to do with bicycle safety. They have to do with transit service to outlying areas, have to do with concerns about density. And so I believe all of those are spoken to in the plan, and that will be our response in terms of directing them to that. Many of the comments will have to do with fiscal constraint and our ability to actually meet the concerns raised. So at this point, we're looking for the TAC to recommend adoption of Strive Forward Regional Transportation Plan to the board. Madam Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions.
And Madam Chair, can I just check on something real quick? I see Sanja has joined us, and forgive me, I'm new to Metro Plan and not sure if you're here for a specific item.
Yes, this is Sanya Kedik Johar. Multimodal Planning Division, Traffic Monitoring Section, Local Government Liaison. And no, I am not here for any specific question. I just like to stay in touch. I'm actually presenting next your next meeting, April 26th, I believe, on some traffic monitoring updates, but not today. Today, I'm just being informed.
Great. Well, thank you. Welcome. I just wanted to make sure we
Thank
didn't miss any public comments you might have wanted to make.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I know I have a question, but I would like to open it up to anyone else that might have questions. So Dave, I thought public comment was throughout next week.
It does, it does, but I can tell you that public comment has pretty well dropped off. We haven't had comments received on the plan itself for several days. And so if you want to make a conditional recommendation, pending, additional comment, I think that would be fine. This will keep us on schedule. It runs through April 2nd, to your point.
Because I know my staff, I have my different planning leaders reviewing it and had them submit their comments by the end of the week.
Okay.
So I'm personally a little uncomfortable recommending it for approval until I've seen those comments. So what happens if this gets postponed until next month?
Well, the sky doesn't fall. Mountains don't crumble to the sea. It just puts it off for another month. I don't think, we don't have people knocking down our door to see this plan. It's not holding any projects up.
I mean, I'd like to get feedback from anyone else, and I don't know if it's premature to make a recommendation, but I would like to recommend that we hold this vote until next TAC meeting. And
a motion, Michelle? Did you just make that motion?
well, I guess I'm not sure because do we have to make the original motion first, or can I just make that? So I guess I would like to make a motion. I would recommend that we postpone this item until next TAC meeting.
So let me ask this question, based off of current comments and any future comments, what would be a comment that would push the regional transportation to not move forward with the stride forward recommendation or adoption of stride forward?
Madam Chair, I'll assume that's directed to me. Member Reisner, I don't see anything that would really defer this. I mean, in many ways, we are simply renewing the existing regional transportation plan. The capital projects in the plan are the capital projects from Blueprint 2040. The policies are effectively the policies from Blueprint 2040 and kind of a restating of the policies from the regional plan, the land use plan for the city and the county. So because of fiscal constraint in those existing policies, we have not really made substantial changes to policy or projects. The new parts of this, as you are all familiar with, are the upward concept. Those are illustrative and really have no bearing on, practical bearing on projects that we can approve, projects that we will endorse, or even policies that we'll endorse. So again, just to reiterate, I don't see any comments that would come in that would preclude adoption or recommendations by staff for adoption.
And if a single comment or if a couple comments came in saying that the individual or the individuals were against the stride forward kind of policy of the regional transportation plan, how would that impact the regional transportation plan?
Madam Chair, Vice Chair Reisner, given that voters ratified both the projects in Stride Forward as well as the policies in Stride Forward, holding those votes up against one or two comments that would object, I would still be recommending adoption of the plan.
Okay. So the portion of the public comment is to make comment towards some of the policy that's in the regional transportation plan. And then we would either decide, or Metro Plan would decide whether or not to take some of those comments and move them forward, or kind of address by saying that this has already been looked at and we do not want to move forward with the recommendation from the comment. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct, yes.
Okay.
So I think, I just want to make sure I understood that correctly, that, because I still have a concern about the optics. I think it's disingenuous to recommend approval of a plan when the comment period is still open. So I still just object to it, right, from a principle standpoint. I also feel like it removes the ability for the TAC to make specific recommendations that we might base our recommendation to approve. Anne?
Thanks, Michelle. So there was a motion that you had put on the table earlier. In part of this discussion, I maybe want to tag on to what I'm hearing between Michelle's with the city comments and concerns about making a recommendation for a plan to be approved that the public comment period hasn't closed, which is really more of a technical process aspect. But then you've asked your staff to provide some comments to this process as well. And that maybe goes back to one of Nate's questions about what potentially could come out of those comments that substantively impact the base recommendation of Stride Forward. And I guess where I'm landing is I would support delaying this approval process and for another month to close the public comment. And the other, just from a process standpoint, I concur that does make sense. And then I do think that what Dave is saying, I mean, this is it's a high level plan. It's a policy component of our region that outlines high level transportation policies. However, the jurisdictions that are at this table are the ones that have the jurisdiction over potentially making policy changes itself. And I think that's where we get into a little bit of our challenges. And I can understand from your perspective, Michelle, as the city planning director of, there are many things that were outlined that your agency would need to be reviewing, and that has a whole process, right? Administrative and all of that through your process. So, wanting to make sure that city is comfortable 100% behind the recommendation of this plan. I would support I would be the second yes to table for this, on that motion for those reasons. So thanks.
Thank you. And thank you for saying what I was trying to say far more eloquently. I guess, is there a second to that motion?
That was me. After all that, I was seconding your motion. Thank you.
Sorry, I put it forward and I didn't know if I needed if I was the first. So, okay, thank you. So all those in favor of postponing the recommendation for approval until next TAC, please say aye.
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 Any objections? Okay, that passes. Thank you. And we will try to get our comments to you, Dave, as soon as possible. I have it on the calendars to get ours in by Friday. So we'll get those to you immediately.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Kate, an Arizona legislative update.
Great, let me get my PowerPoint over here. Let's see. Oh, it's wrong. There we go. Okay. Those notes weren't mine now that I look at them. So I'm going to give you something different if you were trying to read ahead on my notes. We wanted to respond to Member Deno's request last month to give an overview of some of the transportation bills that are at the state right now. And so I'll give you a high level status of those, as well as some recommendations from our perspective of things people can be doing regarding those bills. So the first one is House Bill 2543. This is also known as the RTAC bill. If you've been paying attention to that, it has funding for many projects in it, including 4 in the Metro Plan region. They're listed here. There's $5 million for US 180 flood mitigation, $3 million for US 89 flood mitigation, $5 million for the J.W. Powell Bridge replacement, and then $2.6 million for Lone Tree. And that's written pretty generically in the bill. So I think the original intent was about Lone Tree Road itself, but I think if you read it, there's potential that could apply to the bridge if needed. This has been passing all the committees and is moving through pretty strongly, but our understanding of what will happen to this bill is ultimately it will become a bunch of budget asks, 83 different budget asks that need to make it into the state budget. So the bill will show support for all those projects, but ultimately it needs to end up, each project needs to end up in the state budget. And a suggestion made to us was to consider prioritizing projects in the region. As it reaches the state budget, they have far more requests in all things, not just transportation, than they can actually fund. And so it might be really good to hone in on priorities for the region. So that way, when things start coming to the chopping block, we can at least retain some of them and they don't just throw all 4 out. We don't have to do that. And I will say, we will continue to advocate and talk about all 4, but it might be nice to have in our back pockets when push comes to shove. Around the end of April is the anticipated timeline to know what we would prioritize if we had to. So I think we're open to any feedback from the TAC on this, if there are obvious priorities for the region or not on this particular bill. But I'll move through the other bills and then people can feel free to weigh in on any items. There's also a budget request in the, I think I skipped a slide. Let me go back real quick. No, okay. There's a budget request for the SMART Fund. So the Arizona SMART Fund is a $50 million fiscal year 2023 grant opportunity. And what happened is there was a similar bill to the one we just talked about last year. And those projects didn't really get funded in the same way. But what the state did is they said, we'd like to help you leverage all the money in the Federal Infrastructure Act. And so created the SMART Fund specifically to help people do design and engineering to get their applications farther along to be competitive, or to actually provide match for a federally awarded grant. So we are in the process of helping the city submit a SMART Fund request right now. There's a pot of money, $10 million for cities and towns over 10,000 people. There's a separate pot of $10 million for counties over 100,000 people. So city and county aren't actually competing in this area. There have been a number of submissions for grant funds. All have been awarded to date, actually. There have been more in the city's categories than in the county categories. So we hope to get that city application in soon as that pot is dwindling. But I definitely wanted to point out to the county as well that if there's any money that we could leverage, this seems to be a great way to leverage opportunities that are occurring. And we're happy to help with that. It's a pretty straightforward application. I think the thing to know is our understanding is that this was, again, a budget item in the 23 budget. And the federal infrastructure bill lasts for 5 years. And so it'd be nice if the state would continue to renew this pot of money. So that could be an action item moving forward. And I must have deleted my other slide, which had all the other bills on it. So there are 3 other planning bills. Sorry, I don't have a slide for them, but they basically all limit the ability of local jurisdictions to do planning or ADOT to do planning related to, there's one related to bike and ped projects and some related to vehicle miles traveled and the ability to measure or set goals around some of those things. And while that may seem harmless, ultimately vehicle miles traveled is related to congestion, right? If we're not doing anything to reduce vehicle miles traveled, we're just going to have endless congestion and that costs money. And so I think that, there's the piece about local communities being able to drive the policy decisions that they want to make, but also just this tie to we need to do things about congestion and vehicle miles traveled is directly related to that. So those are the other 3 bills. I had thought one of them had died in committee, but it sounds like all 3 are still moving forward. Our understanding is that the governor is likely to veto them. They will likely pass the legislature, but then be vetoed. But it is always good to submit a letter if you have the opportunity regarding these projects to make sure that that's actually what happens and sharing concerns. So on the next step slides, I have 3 action items that people can be taking and that Metro Plan can take as well. So we can submit letters regarding the planning bills. Those are the ones we just talked about. We can continue to educate for the need for the RTAC funding, the 4 projects, and consider any prioritization if we want to have that in our back pocket ready to go. And then 3, we can ask for those SMART funds to be continued. So that's what we're looking at doing. And it's obviously great if we speak with a regional voice, if our other agencies are doing the same thing. So that's my presentation and happy to answer any questions.
So Kate, this is Paul Mood. I did get your email with the information about the RTAC. I don't know if you want to put that slide up again. And I did meet with the city manager and our finance director. We just discussed it briefly. And I'm putting together kind of a response to the email you sent. The 89 flood mitigation falls outside of the city's jurisdiction. Technically, the JWP bridge is in ADOT's jurisdiction. There is the potential for the widening with the NAH hospital, so we could be asked to participate in that. The Highway 180 flood mitigation, that's in our 5-year capital improvement project. We're at 30% design, but we are counting on 100% state funding for the construction of that project. So that one looks like it'll be a top priority. The Lone Tree, the overpass, we do have the Prop 419 funding, but the estimates were done back in 2018. So the construction costs are coming in way higher. So that could be another one of our top priorities as well. So are you looking for us to respond to your email with our information, or how do you want us to do that?
I think this discussion is fine, just knowing where to put those priorities. And I do think that you bring up a good strategy of, trying to get the legislature to not see it as one Metro Plan regional request, but that the city of Flagstaff has a request and maybe the county has a request. And so that, it's not multiple projects of the region. That might be a strategy towards trying to get a couple projects approved in the end.
Sure.
So,
yeah. I mean, obviously the county's going to say the 89 flood mitigation is their priority, right?
we'll have to wait for Nate to come back from that phone call.
Yeah. Well, he's off, so he doesn't get to prioritize.
Nate, the 89 project ended up at the bottom, but
I don't think Lucinda would agree with that, but
Yeah, and then the PDF stuff you sent, Kate, I thought it said for the 89 flood mitigation, they were asking for like $20 million.
It did say that. I think those must be outdated. I did double check what's in HB 2543 related to that, and it was the 5 million, sorry. The US 180 project is the one that said 20, right?
No, the 89.
Or the 89. It is 3 million in the bill. I did
Okay.
double check that.
Yeah, it said like 20 million on the project PDF, and I think it did say 3 million in the list of projects.
Thank you I really appreciate that input. Thank you.
Anne?
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Kate, for bringing this item on the agenda. I appreciate your effort in kind of compiling and providing kind of your next step recommendations. And I guess before we jump off this topic, you know, as Mountain Line, obviously our partner agency partners, these are your projects, but, you know, I think Mountain Line would say whatever between the city and the county, you know, if we're going with a regional strategy, then, you know, MetroPlan, I would hope would be able to help you guys determine if we as a region have to make a determination, then you all can confer and make that recommendation. But I guess that being said, I really appreciate the next steps because I do think MetroPlan as the regional planning organization and all of our, you know, our best interests with big picture transportation planning regarding to some of those bills that are around the BMT and really not supportive of bike and ped essentially. I mean, I do like the idea of letters coming from MetroPlan with, you know, the agency partners, you know, support, obviously, being part of this agency. And then also the idea of individual, you know, our own agencies are willing to send our own letters. I think that would also just double up that voice. So I definitely think that'd be a great time spent. I'd be happy to help MetroPlan with that, putting letters together, whatnot, collecting signatures, etc. So I think that's really helpful. And I guess really, like Kate said, you know, the more our voice is heard by these different groups down in the valley, the legislature, and following that process and knowing when to put our voice in and when to work, you know, how we can work together, I think more likely to lead to some success. So, so thank you. Yeah.
Any other discussion? Okay, no, thanks a lot for this, Kate. And I know, and Jeff or Paul, I don't know if you know if we're writing a letter on the bill that addresses VMT, but I know that got passed on to us, I think maybe even from Mountain Line, Kate. I think there might be something that we're preparing as well, or some comments. I don't know if Jeff or Paul, if you know for sure, but we could probably check with Sarah Langley.
Yeah, I do not know.
Yeah, I haven't seen the activity either.
Okay, we'll move on to the fiscal year 2022 audit.
All right, I have a PowerPoint for this one too. All right, so our 2022 audit, this one's been coming at me fast and furious in the last couple of weeks, trying to get caught up on this. And I do want to, oh, it's funny, all these slides are not showing when I bring them forward. Well, I will, no sense in showing that. Let me escape. So I see what's happening. Give me a moment. It's showing, it has the slides hidden. Okay, there it is. Okay, so the 2022 audit is due on the 31st, and we will make that deadline, no problem. Wanted to present some outcomes from the audit. Essentially, there were no findings. They show that we're fairly presenting all of our financial records and complying with, standard government accounting principles. They didn't think that there were any errors with any of our federal programs or issues to look at there. And ultimately, there were no findings or question costs at the end of the audit. I do want to be very transparent, though, that they did have some feedback for us that's considered non-material. So it does not impact our audit documentation. But they found 4 things that they wanted to call out specifically. Was one, there's a conflict of interest policy that everybody signs, and staff are required to sign it as well. They hadn't done that, and so we'll do a better job of making sure we get all required signatures to the conflict of interest policies next year. They found 2 instances where they couldn't find appropriate documentation associated with payments that were made. They found a number of payroll errors that have all since been corrected, and payrolls in collaboration with Mountain Line. And so we worked with Mountain Line to resolve those. And then there was the non-documentation of a public opening for an RFP. So those were some of the findings from the 2022 audit. And ultimately, they really had a recommendation that we related to these things, that we needed to work on our internal controls policy. So we're going to debrief with the auditor in April and go over some of their more, critiques of the internal controls policy, and then changes that we can make to it so that we can get those updated before, hopefully here before the end of fiscal year 23, and start fiscal 24 off with the new policies in place and be able to update that. So those are the highlights of the audit. I will say that, we're almost through FY23 and none of these changes have been made. And so I do anticipate that we'll have similar results in the FY23 audit, but hope to have them all corrected for FY24. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Looks like there's no questions. Thanks, Kate, for that update. All right, we'll move on. Nate is going to give us an update on the Coconino County alternative-based products and ADOT I-40 design concept for Belmont.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I don't really have a presentation for anybody today, but I just wanted to talk about some things that the county is doing in terms of using alternative-based products from typical aggregate base, and then talk about the ADOT I-40 design concept report update for Belmont that we're working with ADOT to try to kick off next fiscal year. So starting off with the alternative-based products, it's really not alternative products. What we're looking at doing at some of our reconstruct areas is pulverizing the existing asphalt and blending it with the existing base, and then introducing a base soil stabilizer or base stabilizer. So we're looking at utilizing 3 different products right now. One product that we are getting ready to go into bid with is called Lithified Technologies. It's a cement-based product that has some additives that they are not willing to share with us what they are, but it makes the cement section a little bit more flexible, so we don't have the issue of cracking in the future, like a lot of cement treated bases have. So we're not really jumping into that with both feet. We're going to do a alternative bid package to where we can actually look to see if we're truly getting any cost savings for utilizing this technology versus our typical remove all the existing base and bring in new base and pave over the top of it. 2 other technologies we're looking at utilizing lignin sulfate to treat the base and stabilize the base and pave on top of it after we pulverize and blend again. And then we're also looking at a company called TerraPave. TerraPave and lignin sulfate, they're both naturally occurring polymers that are stabilizers. So lignin sulfate comes from it's a byproduct of pulpwood manufacturing. And then I don't know exactly what the TerraPave one is, because again, it's another, what do they call it? Where it's a proprietary product where they're not willing to really share with us what it is, what for the material of it. But both of those two stabilizers are naturally occurring polymers. Why are we looking at doing this? Last year, we saw an increase of our aggregate base go from about $15 a ton, $15 a ton to about $20 a ton this year. That's just raw material costs. And then the cost of trucking to and from our construction sites went up about 30% this year over last year. So that kind of really drove us into looking at what can we do to utilize the material that we currently have under the road and in the road to create a base to where we're going to get another 20-year design life out of it. So why did some of these material costs go up so much? Well, our pit, McCormick pit, that used to supply probably 95% of the aggregate base here in Flagstaff was closed last year and nobody's opened it back up yet. So all of our materials either coming out of Gray Mountain, and right now they're only crushing for asphalt. So to get them to turn over to crushed aggregate base is extremely expensive, or it comes out of the Red Lake pit off the 64 that Fan operates. So both those haul distances has doubled from our original, our traditional haul location of the McCormick pit. So those are some of the reasons why we're looking at using these alternative base stabilization products, and the products that we're looking at utilizing. Again, we're not going to try to jump in with both feet on all these alternative base products. We're going to hopefully utilize the Select Liquefied technologies for our parks our Garland Prairie reconstruction project this year. And then we'll start taking cores every so often of the space to see if we're really getting the bearing capacity and the resulting R values, which is kind of what pavement design is based off of, the correlating R values of the base underneath the roadway, before we start kind of utilizing it almost as a standard. With the two polymer alternatives, we're also looking at utilizing it to stabilize some of our dirt roads. So the county maintains over 600 miles of dirt roads. So we're going to look at on, let's see, Houghton Ranch Road. We're going to look at treating Houghton Ranch Road with the lignin product and with the TerraPave product to see which one's performing better. Both of those have fairly high volumes on it, and has some fairly high trucking volumes on it because one of the water delivery companies operates off Houghton Ranch Road. So we're interested to see, number one, how much improvement we get in terms of how often we're having to grade the road, and then also dust abatement. A lot of these polymer alternatives were developed for soil stabilization. They were first used as dust abatement. That's one of the next kind of big things that we kind of foresee coming down through the EPA on maintaining dirt roads, is trying to abate the dust as much as possible. So these are some kind of alternatives that we're looking at that we're kind of excited about here, and seeing how productive they are for us. Any questions on the alternative base products that we're looking at using? All right.
No, just
Yeah, Ann.
a comment. Like, thanks for sharing really a lot of the the analysis that's going on into performance of the new material. You know, there's the economics behind it, obviously feeds into budgets, and everyone's aware we're trying to squeeze every dollar out of maintenance budgets as we can. And so yeah, just great job. Interested. I mean, Mountain Line doesn't do a lot of large scale paving and dust abatement and whatnot, but I mean, if this could save money in budgets and is still sustainable and helps with dust and air quality, that's all positive. So, and it's great you're getting to test it up in northern Arizona to test with our wonderful freeze thaws and everything else we have up here. So
Right, our high UV contents and all that fun stuff.
thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Ann. All right.
Myrna?
Go ahead.
Oh, Myrna has her head up.
Hi, so I was actually interested in learning a little bit more about your stabilization efforts there, or the additive anyway. So one of the items that we're working on here at ADOT is trying to provide some additional truck parking for truckers. And of course, those are not going to be anything fancy. They're not going to be paved or anything. So I would be very interested in that information that you have.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so we're gonna work with Nye McCarty also. He's a regional materials engineer at ADOT. And he's interested in these things that we're doing as well. So we're gonna keep Nye informed and involved in our process. That way, Nye is really involved in the standards committee as well. So if it's something that performs well for us, especially for our dirt road stabilization and some of our base stabilization products, then Nye is going to try to start pushing some of those products for standards committee once we do some trial sessions up here and see results that are favorable.
Great. Of course, today would be when Brendan doesn't come, right? I'm
all
sure
right.
he would be all over that. So, but thank you.
Yeah, I'm in regular contact with Brendan as well. So,
Great.
Yep.
Thanks.
yep. And then the I-40 DCR concept report. So the county submitted for a raise grant out in Belmont last year. We were not awarded it, but we also didn't do any coordination with ADOT on the raise grant that we're proposing. And so once I came over to the county, I sat down with our management. I said, hey, we really need to look at the I-40 design concept report, because there are some recommendations in that report for out in Belmont. Those recommendations, I feel right now, are no longer really valid for out in Belmont because of the development that has happened out there. So we reached out to ADOT to kind of kick off a interest in updating the I-40 design concept report specifically for out in the Belmont area. ADOT is in favor of thank you, Dave. ADOT is in favor of updating this report. So what we're going to do is kick off in fiscal year 24 a update to the I-40 design concept report. We're going to be looking at a few different things. The first thing we're going to be looking at is the current traffic interchange. And the recommendation of the current I-40 DCR is to move the current traffic interchange 800 feet to the east. Thank you. Yep. And we don't believe that that's currently viable because the off ramps would go right through a bunch of the houses that are now off of Pegasus Road. The reason the roundabout was originally placed in the location where you see the roundabout in this map is because the I-40 DCR called for the interchange to be relocated and then a roundabout at the intersection of what would be the new Hughes Avenue, and then another roundabout at the intersection of Brannigan Parkway and where you see the current roundabout at. So the county put the roundabout in, and now we're not very confident that the TI can be moved. So we're going to look at a couple different things. We're going to look at can the existing TI be can the capacity be increased to facilitate existing and future volumes? If it can't, can we relocate it? Can we relocate it to the west at all? And can we install a secondary traffic interchange somewhere out in Belmont? Currently, the DCR has a second interchange proposed about a mile to the west of the current Belmont traffic interchange. And that was mainly due to the predicted development of Camp Navajo. So we're going to bring Camp Navajo into the conversations as well to see if they're still planning their expansion and development. If that's the case, then we'll probably keep that recommended traffic interchange there. If not, we're going to see if we could get a traffic interchange, maybe a half traffic interchange installed to the west of the current traffic interchange to help provide secondary access for the Belmont neighborhoods out there. We're also looking at the intersection of Brannigan Parkway and Hughes Avenue to provide better ingress and egress out of the Pilot Travel Center and Brannigan Parkway roads. Right now, there's a lot of traffic congestion that happens there, causing traffic to back up a lot on the interstate. Then at the roundabout itself, we get trucks stuck in it. So we're going to be re-looking at the roundabout to see what changes need to be made to try to make it more efficient for truckers. And then coming out of the Pilot gas station, a lot of truckers get stuck and are confused about how to get to Pilot and out of Pilot back onto the interstate. So we're kind of just looking at the entire area and trying to come up with a plan, 30% design plan with the DCR update. So we are better suited to apply for either the infra grant or the RAISE grant to either reconstruct the interchange, move the interchange, and do some frontage road improvements on Brannigan Parkway and Shadow Mountain Road. And Kate, thank you for sending us the information on the grant, the planning grant. It's on my priority list now to apply for one of those grants. Right now, the county has in our CIP budget, I have put aside about $500,000 for this planning activity. But if I can get that supplemented at all through the planning grant, I will be extremely happy. We'll put that money onto pavement preservation. Yeah, Kate.
Yeah, let's strategize on that. I have some good ideas about how to make that viable. And I think the fact that you have applied for a raise and would consider additional federal grants, it's a great opportunity to get the SMART Fund money. And like I said, that pot seems untapped so far. So let us know how we can help. It's pretty straightforward, but happy to assist.
Okay, I'm hoping to dive into that application next week, and then if I have questions or need any assistance, I'll let you know. Myron.
Hi again. So I just have a quick question. I remember the meeting that we had regarding the Belmont study.
Yeah.
A quick question. The thought, I know this might be a bit premature, but any of the alternatives that you just discussed actually require the existing traffic interchange to be closed, or are you planning, or is the thought is to keep both or two interchanges now?
So there's both those options are on the table. So we're looking at one option of moving the current traffic interchange to the west, maybe 1,000 feet or so. And then, so that would close the current interchange and move it 1,000 feet to the west.
Right.
Another option is to keep the current interchange, make some improvements to it, and then construct a secondary interchange about 1.5 miles to the east. That would be a half interchange, only serving the north frontage road. It's called Beaton's East Road there, or Brannigan Parkway. It's actually called Shadow Mountain Road, but serving that northern frontage road, not serving the southern frontage road. So those are some of the things that we're going to talk about. And anything that we're not seeing is also on the table. So,
Thank you.
yeah, there's a lot of sidewalk that is kind of checkerboarded, for lack of a better word, through the Belmont neighborhood. So that'd be something we'd want to include as part of, not necessarily that study, but part of it, any type of grant that we get out there, is connect some of the neighborhoods to the travel center. And it's going to be more than just a travel center, but just it's going to be a commercial center once all the planned development out there happens. And that concludes my update. If anybody had, Kate, go ahead.
Sorry, one more question, Nate. So I know a lot of the issues at Belmont are driven by the pilot station, right? And the truck traffic. And I know that ADOT's working on its rest stop plan, and they do have the Parks rest stop as one of just 2, I think, across the state for reopening. And it seems like that may help. It won't hurt, but it could potentially help by giving trucks an alternative. And I guess, are you looking for partners to make, if the comment period's open, are you looking for partners to make comment supporting the reopening of that as a priority as related to this? Or any thoughts, I guess, any other thoughts on the truck stop plan and public comment we should make?
Yeah, so the truck stop one will help us. The times where we had the biggest problems out in the Belmont areas during snowstorms, snow events, because all the trucks are trying to get off the road, especially when the highway's closed. So having a rest stop area is helpful. The only problem with the rest stop areas and opening those rest stop areas is there's really no amenities in those locations. And at the travel center, the pilot travel center, they have all the amenities that they would need between gas and food and showers and whatnot. And then I don't know from the county standpoint, but from my past life, I know that there was a lot of crime at those rest areas. They're just west of Belmont, and I think that was one of the reasons they started staffing the person there full time. So I know that Christopher has been on that technical advisory committee, and I don't know what the county's standpoint is on making those a priority or not.
I guess I could just speak up. I
Yeah,
had
go
my
ahead.
hand up. Sorry, I'm full of questions today, aren't I? So regarding that rest stop, you're correct. ADOT is planning on keeping it open for truck stops, for truckers only, with very limited amenities, and which means just basically bathrooms. So and right now they are so beyond any kind of rehab that we doubt that they will ever be regular rest areas again, because it would require basically demoing everything. As of right now, we plan on demoing the buildings because they're more of a hazard than they are useful. So but at least that would be helpful in relieving some of that traffic for the Belmont interchange anyway.
Yeah.
And also the comment period for the rest area study is open until the end of this coming weekend. So if you'd like to submit your comment, please feel free to do so.
Thank you, Myrna.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for me? Well, thank you for the time.
Thanks, Nate. All right, Kate, it looks like you're going to give us another update on various projects that MetroPlan staff is working on.
Dave's going to take this one for us.
Cool.
see if I can get to the right screen here. There it is. All right, are you seeing my screen with West Route 66? Okay, so this is just to bring to your attention that Mandy Gonzalez is working studiously on the scope for this project. She has a draft underway. I believe she shared that with you, and she'll be coming out for stakeholder interviews to wrap up that scope here shortly. One of the questions that we'll put before you is, what are the project limits? Currently, we're really looking at just this first 3 sections and not looking at the urban section from Woodlands Village over to Milton Road. The motivation for the study and looking at this area was some of the rapid development and Mountain Line's desire and interest in extending route and pedestrian stops. But we do know there's redevelopment happening in the urban section, and there may be a need for understanding development expectations and setting those. And so that's one of the things we'll want to be hearing from you all. We're really excited about this project. It's one that we are undertaking mostly in-house. There is budget to hire consultants, but Mandy will be acting as a project manager and kind of the general contractor, if you will, or prime consultant, and hiring out subs. So that's what's coming up on West Route 66. Any questions? This is really just a heads up at this point. Okay. The next project is, or 2 projects really, is the Regional Transportation Safety Plan and the SS4A project. The Regional Transportation Safety Plan, we have wrapped up our survey. We've got over 500 responses to the online survey, which is very good. Social Pinpoint, which is the interactive mapping exercise, is still available on our website, and we'll put a reminder out about that shortly through our social media and the community forum. But that has well over 100, I think over 100 participants and numerous comments, some of them making multiple comments on the map. The consultant is working on the emphasis areas for safety, as well as the analysis on like the high injury networks and things like that. The next TAC meeting where we'll be going through this in depth is scheduled for June. As far as the SS4A is concerned, that's the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant that we received. I believe we have a kickoff meeting with the Federal Highways Arizona Division next month to work out the grant agreement. Being a small grant, we're hoping it's fairly simple. Really, we look at the work for that as a reminder to you all, as a supplement to the Regional Transportation Safety Plan, with additional focus on vulnerable users. We know there's been a lot of work in this area done, but we look forward to really working closely with stakeholders and neighborhoods to refine the project and the projects that we might consider, as well as the range of project types. So that's forthcoming. And I believe those are the projects I'm reporting on, and it's back to you, Kate.
Great. Any questions for Dave before I talk about NACDO membership? Okay. So NACDO membership, I think this was also a request to consider joining the National Association of City Transportation Officials. We've looked at membership. It is not inexpensive. I think it's about $7,500 a year at this point. But NACTO does have a lot of great resources and things going on that I think could benefit, in particular, the city, being that they're city transportation officials. They are much more focused on urban environments. And I think it's something we're willing to consider if the partners wanted to join in on that and saw use and benefit in it. It is a pretty substantial increase in MetroPlan's membership budget over what this current year would be as a small organization. But they're doing many things like putting out alternative ways to set speed limits and traffic calming measures, and a lot of things that I think could potentially benefit the city in particular with the conversations that are going on there. So I think, we're happy to pursue it if partners will buy into it and get use out of it, but otherwise may just look to their webinars and open events. So don't know if anyone has any response or interest in NACTO membership. Yeah.
So I think Mountain Line, like you said, NACO really stays at that high planning level around policies and approaches to resolving, many of the standard issues that most communities have with multimodal transportation challenges, roadway challenges, just, the way people are moving through our communities. So I really like the idea of, if MetroPlan's, board is supportive in terms of your budget process, would be open to that. I don't know if it's something that each of us as an agency could consider, would want to bring back to our agencies to consider, like a small contribution, per agency to help towards this. Just a little bit to help. That might be something maybe our TAC could bring back to our respective leadership that makes those decisions. So that's just something to consider to bring forward maybe at the next TAC meeting, or however. I'm not sure how you're going to work this into your budget process, Kate, but just that would be my one piece of feedback that I'd be curious to hear what other TAC members think. Thanks.
Great. And just for process, I can say, so this will go to board this month too. We'll make mention and provide any feedback from the TAC. And I think if there is a strong response to consider it, then we'll look at how to get that included in the budget. And ultimately it would be decided in the budget process, but we would let the board know this month of any interest. So. Jeff.
Thanks. I have gone to the NACTO website a few times and attended some training in the past, and I've never run across like a paywall. Like I don't feel like I'm not getting to things that they offer. Do you have a feel for how much more is behind a paywall, or what more you get from being a member as opposed to just going to their website and buying their documents?
That's a really good question, especially since we had Mandia look into it and she's not here today. She did say that there are a number of things that are behind paywalls. Additionally, more detailed research is what it sounded like it was, but I could get more information and get that over to you.
Okay. Yeah, just curious what the value is, because it is, I mean, that's like $7,500 is probably the whole engineering division's budget for travel and training this year, not just membership. So it's a huge number for us.
That's good perspective. Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, I think, Madam Chair, we're on to item G, the happening.
Okay. Thanks. And then I guess that's you. Take it away.
Okay. one quick slide on this one. Okay, oh, can you see? Not yet. Now you can see. Okay. So happening at Metro Plan's a new report that I want to put as a standard report every month. Part of our mission is to be leveraging cooperation, and it feels like we need to make sure we're telling the things that are upcoming and things that we're doing so people can figure out where there are opportunities to collaborate. So trying to highlight some opportunities where there may be options where people want to join us at an event or know that we're out at Earth Day, for example, and ask us to put a brochure out on your behalf or do those kinds of things. So that's the purpose of the happening at Metro Plan. And there's more in your packet, but I've just put a couple highlights up here. One is on April 1st. Dave will have 26 years serving the region, which I just think is amazing. And all the projects that he's worked on, it's really transformed the community. So I want to thank Dave for everything he's done for the community. Number two, we're on social media. We're trying to build a following. It's pretty new for us. So please consider finding us, liking us, and following us. Yeah, I noted here that we're helping the city with the Downtown Mile Arizona Smart Fund application. So that's, thank you, Sandra, this week for helping them out and trying to work with ADOT on some pieces there. And then I've just put a couple upcoming calendar items on here for you to consider. So Dave is hosting the VMT workshop on the 29th. That's next week. We will have a table out at Earth Day. We're partnering with Flag Bike Org to put out some Bike Month stuff there so that they don't also have to do a table. And so if you have something that you'd like us to share at Earth Day, please let us know. Just noting that Bike Month is May. That's exciting. There's lots of events going on. So make sure you find the Bike to Work breakfast, I think is the highlight. So you can get all the free food on your way to work. And then our advance. So we will cancel the May TAC meeting. Actually, I think it's at the same time now that we've rescheduled the advance. We are still working to confirm a venue for that, but it will be in person. And so you should have updated calendar invites for the advance. And happy to answer any other questions.
Kate, what is the advance?
Oh, the advance, if you're not familiar with maybe regional terminology for a retreat in Flagstaff, I think it was Supervisor Metzger who used to say, we don't retreat from things, we advance towards them. So you'll often hear that used for a retreat. So it'll be our big annual advance where we'll talk about goals for the year, and that will lead us into our work plan and strategic plan and budget. So that's where that's headed.
Thank you.
Hey, I just want to say congratulations, Dave. Thanks.
Thank you. Looks like I need to update that picture.
That is your only picture in the file, to be clear. All right, I can put this agenda back up here for you.
And actually, I have it pulled up. So I think that was, now we're going to move on to item H, just executive board agenda review. And I'd like to second that. Congratulations, Dave. I think if you shave, maybe it would look like that picture.
The executive board will see the same agenda TAC just saw, with one exception. They requested hearing an update on wildlife corridors. So we're currently working with Game and Fish and trying to figure out how to get them the information that they need. If that's of interest to the TAC, we could bring it back at the next TAC meeting. But otherwise, they will see the same agenda.
Okay. So we're going to move on to item A or I. Oh my goodness. Future agenda items.
Yeah, this is just a call for future agenda items. If anyone has anything they'd like us to bring forward at a future meeting. Okay, well, feel free at any point to reach out and request something.
Kate, is there anything from closing business, any items from the committees?
Nothing.
Okay. So it looks like our next scheduled meeting will be April 27th. And that one's staying. It's the May one that gets moved to the advance.
Yes, and I will note, I have had a request to consider moving these to in-person with virtual as the alternative rather than the standard meeting. And I guess I'm curious about people's willingness to go back to an in-person meeting. I do think that there's value in the collaboration or side discussion that can occur. I recognize not everyone always wants to come over to Mountain Line. It's not the most convenient building. That is where Metro Plan is currently housed. And so might look to a partner, maybe the city or someone to host if we were to do that. But curious if people are willing to consider in-person meetings.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
and we can definitely help host.
Okay, well, maybe I'll work with you, Michelle, on trying to find a standing meeting space and we can really try to attend. I know not all of us are local, but those of us that are local really prioritize coming in person and, the virtual is the exception. Great.
All right, with that, it looks like it's 2:48 and we can adjourn. Thanks a
you.
lot, everyone.
Yeah, appreciate it, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon, guys.